Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 447 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, over the weekend, I just helped my son put together his resume, even though he's only a freshman in college right now. The time to start networking and finding internships or jobs is right now while you're in college. Don't wait until you're ready to graduate and now you need a job. That's the worst time to start networking. Yes, his experience is a bit light right now as a freshman in college. I will grant you that. However, we highlighted his volunteer positions, all of his skills. He has really good communication skills. He's got proficiency in calculus, programming languages, critical thinking, and creativity. And in the profile section of his resume, we talked about all of the outcomes of his successful projects that he's doing in his fall classes and how that would help potential employers. So understand that your roadmap to success starts right now while you're in college by building your resume, by building your LinkedIn account, and you're going to add to it over time. It's totally okay to make those adjustments over time. Speaking of roadmaps, let's talk to our next guest. Maria Maldonado Smith is the Chief Empowerment Officer of MMS Consulting and the creator of the Executive Vision Imagery program. After 18 years of award-winning success in the corporate space, working as a sales leader for Fortune 500 companies across 3 different industries, Maria brings her unparalleled combination of experience to her proprietary process and interactive trainings, helping companies to understand the science and benefits of goal setting for all of their employees. She equips leaders, employees, and organizations to clearly define goals and create a roadmap to achieving them, which allows for better alignment with corporate culture, leading to increased productivity and profitability. Maria has served numerous national and international clients, including the U.S. House of Representatives, Disney, and Paramount Studios. Welcome to the show, Maria.
Thank you so much, Michael. Great to connect with you. Great to be on the show. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I tell you what, I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I know you have so much great information to share with our college students. So I'm really, really excited to meet you and get you onto the podcast. You know, usually I start with college, but there's something interesting because as a third grader, you were attending St. Peter and Paul Catholic School in Lexington, Kentucky. And even as a third grader, you had these huge aspirations for your life. Your teacher at the time asked all the students to write down your top 3 goals. You wrote down the following: graduate college, okay, that's understandable, become Miss Kentucky, and
Yep.
to become a United States Senator. Most other students that they would have talked to in third grade would probably talk about what they wanted to do that day, like, I want to eat pizza today, or maybe that week if they're really like bold, right? So were you always thinking about big future goals with such optimism?
I'm a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer and I always think big picture. So, and then I have to work back to, okay, now how am I going to get there? How am I going to achieve that? I knew at a very young age that I wanted a big life. I wanted to fulfill certain dreams, aspirations. The college, going to college was really important to me because, I'm the daughter of an immigrant who had an 8th grade education. So he came to this country literally on the back of a horse and was in the horse racing industry his entire career. So spent 50 years, working in that industry and really solidified it to us the importance of an education because he was so good with horses. And that translated to how he was with us at home individually. Like he was just very caring, very nurturing. He was the dad who always would bandage you or bandage you up and make sure that you were completely. I sprained my ankle a number of times being a dancer, and and a performer, and he was always the one like there. I know exactly what to do, let's so, and I think some of that carried over into the things that he would learn, on the farm. So that was just very important to me, and same with my mom too. My mom really encouraged it as well. My mom is a lifelong, lover of learning, and that was instilled in us. Being Miss Kentucky was also something I did with my mom as well. We would watch every year. They used to televise the Miss Kentucky pageant on TV, so we tune in and we would watch, and I'm like, I want to be that young woman one day. And then we would follow her, we'd watch her journey to the Miss America pageant. So we tune in to ABC, NBC, whoever was playing it that year, and we would watch the pageant. So just from a young age, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that job, not really realizing it is actually a job. So, and then the third, United States Senator, that I always say, man, I don't really know why I put that at the time, other than my dad did watch a lot of like what is called like Kentucky Educational Television. It's like a PBS type version, C-SPAN, things that were free to learn, just like I guess English speaking people will watch telenovelas to learn Spanish. He would learn, he learned English through kind of the art of political talk and banter and testimonies in front of Congress. So I would sit and boringly watch them with him, but I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of cool, be a US senator. And I think once I learned a little bit more about what they did, and I was always drawn to leadership roles and, laws and the ability to impact people in a positive way. As I looked back in my life, I ended up graduating with a political science degree from the University of Kentucky. The next month I won the, Miss Kentucky. I've interned in DC. I've worked on political campaigns, but that is a goal that I 100% redirect because I have no desire. I mean, if you've turned on any TV at all in the last, 8 years, that anyone who puts themselves out there in the political, the political scene is a masochist at heart, because I just cannot believe that you would subject yourself to that kind of pure torture.
Yeah, there's a lot of scrutiny that goes with that job of being a
Yeah.
US senator. And I just can't imagine putting myself through that, or my family too. I mean, I
Right.
started thinking about what kind of criticism are they going to get at school or at work,
Ex-
like, oh, your mom's a senator. Let me tell you
Yeah,
what I think about her,
right, exactly. Exactly.
I just
Yes,
can't
yes.
even imagine that at all. But it is interesting how we're so like shaped by our parents. I think there's no question about it because, my parents also came from another country. They also highly believed in education, and that was like the ticket
Mhm.
to wealth in the United States. And so they very, very much pushed education on us as children. The goal for my dad was always Harvard. I mean, to this day, he's like, hey, if either of the kids get into Harvard, I'm paying. And so
Oh, I love it.
that was the goal. That was like the gold standard, right? And so, so it's interesting how all of that plays out. But I agree with you. I think to me, it left this impression of you must be a lifelong learner. And, maybe that's why I'm in a doctorate program now at this stage of life, is just to kind of show the kids that I really mean that lifelong learning is not just something that I talk about. It's something that I'm going to actively do in action. So that way I'm kind of setting the stage for them to also kind of follow in those footsteps. So that's something that I think about as well quite often. And, you mentioned that you graduated from the University of Kentucky. That was in May of 2004. And I'm just curious. I mean, you could have gone, I'm sure, to a bunch of different universities. I know you have great fondness for other places, maybe Alabama and others. What made you choose the University of Kentucky?
Two things, cost and a boy.
Now we found the reason.
Yes. There were a few other schools that was looking at my senior year.
Uh,
But I met the love of my life my senior year, the fall of my senior year of high school, and we've been together ever since. So he was already at the University of Kentucky, and he was a Lexington transplant from Las Vegas, of all places. And yeah, we met working together at Toys R Us. No, we were not shopping there. And we met there, and the rest is history. So that really shaped my decision after that. Plus, I was given a pretty decent scholarship. I was actually awarded a full ride at the University of Louisville, but I did pass
oh
it up
wow, you passed it up.
for music. But And I was accepted into the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music, but there was no way I could have afforded what they gave me. So it really did shape a lot of my decision making. At the end of the day, it was looking at, the financial means of my family and just what I knew I didn't want to have to take out in loans. And so I was given an opportunity to sing to sing for my degree. And so I did. I chose that. And halfway through, I guess middle of my junior year is when I decided that I didn't want actually that career path anymore. And so I did forfeit the scholarship, but I had begun competing in the Miss America system, and I was winning a decent amount of money to cover the cost of that scholarship. And then I had other scholarships in place as well. So I came out of college after 4 years and competing at Miss America, and I was debt free. So that was another goal of mine. I think once I got to college was to leave college without any debt.
Well, that certainly worked out very well. You had no debt and you met the right boy to go and marry. So it all worked out. It's
Yes.
perfect. And the interesting thing is like 1 month after graduation, so now we're talking June of 2004. Now
Mhm.
suddenly you're crowned the first Hispanic Miss Kentucky, and you won the opportunity to now represent your home state at Miss America in 2005. And that pageant was in Atlantic City, where you were actually an interview award winner. And that makes total sense to me talking to you. I'm like, of course he's going to win interview award winner. Like, duh, of course. So what was that experience like for you?
I mean, it was fantastic. I still, I have a 16-year-old daughter now, and she competes in the system, and it's really cool sometimes to just think back on my own experience. She's having her own experience in and of her in and of itself, and I'm so happy for her in that way, because she was a self-proclaimed non-pageant girl her whole life until a couple years ago, and then decided, well, I'll give this a try. It's in the blood. But it was a phenomenal experience. I have met so many amazing women who are still my friends to this day. One of my closest friends, it was Miss California, and we still talk and chat, not nearly as much as we would like because we, marriage, kids, the whole thing, careers, all of that. But anytime we connect, we pick right back up where we left off. Just beautiful relationships and friendships that I think it's interesting. And we were talking a little bit earlier about like sports or different, or music or different things. I think when you are involved in something that, whether it's within school or extracurricular, or in the in college life, where you form friendships with like-minded women or like-minded people, it bonds you in a way that only you can describe those types of situations and circumstances. And so those 49 other women went through something that not very many women get to go through, and that's to compete on a national stage for a title that most of us had been really working towards from the time we were younger. And so it was an amazing experience, just the opportunity to be able to perform in front of that many people, to be able to speak with, judges who were, Mark Cuban was one of my judges. So that was pretty cool to be in an interview room with him. Nikki Taylor, a supermodel, was also one of our judges that year. We had a former Miss America on the panel, Kelly Cash, actually from your home state, Tennessee. So,
Right.
there was just an amazing group of people that at 22 years of age, you're being thrust into these opportunities that aren't really afforded very many 22-year-olds. On top of that, Miss Kentucky is a job. You're actually hired by the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and it is a partnership that is still ongoing. And if anything, is becoming more and more present in the journey of Miss Kentucky. And so I got to speak to over 120 schools throughout my year. I traveled almost 30,000 miles, made hundreds of appearances. It was just an incredible experience to be put in at 22. I did a lot of growing up and maturing in that one year.
Oh yeah. If you're speaking to 120 schools, I guarantee you, and I know what that's like.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you're doing that, yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely emerged as a different person
Yes.
after that experience.
Yes. Gave
Uh,
me a whole new look on middle school. Sixth to eighth grade.
and in middle school, they can be challenging to talk to at
So
times.
challenging. Yes.
So, I mean, I'm trying to figure this out because you went from Miss America to now corporate America, right? So you're no longer singing, which was like kind of that first love for you. And now suddenly you're working in sales for GM Financial for over 10 years. So what made you decide that like singing, politics, all of that is not for you? And now you're heading into corporate America for sales?
Well, and I would say that singing is still something that I love. It's still a passion of mine. I just don't get paid to do it. So I give up my services for free. If anyone wants to hear me sing, they're more than welcome. But I'm just not signing a record deal anytime soon. But I do love it. It is definitely a passion, and I do consider it a gift. And I feel like we have to use our gifts, you know. And so it's something that I try ever so often to use to bring joy to people. I found myself in sales by actually, so I kind of extended my life term as Miss Kentucky. I actually got absorbed into the Department of Agriculture at the time. The Commissioner of Agriculture really liked what I was doing and said, you know what, I want to create this ambassador program. I'd love for you to be a goodwill ambassador. You're going to continue traveling the state, but now you're going to talk about a different program. And it was a program that was up and coming called Kentucky Proud, and it promoted and supported all of the 58,000 farm families across Kentucky, many of whom at that point had been involved in the tobacco buyout settlement of that time, because Kentucky was a big producer of that, and they were on the up and out. So we were helping these farmers and food producers replace their tobacco crop with something different. So I would go around and speak about the importance of diversification, et cetera. And that led to me promoting the Salsa Sisters in a Northern Kentucky Kroger store. And a district sales manager from Pfizer grabbed me and said, "You're in the wrong profession." And I'm like, "Who are you? I don't know who you are." But she handed me her card and she said, "You and I need to talk because I think you belong in a completely different field." So I thought about it. I called her up, chatted, and not even a month later, I was in the middle of an interview for a pharmaceutical sales job. 9 interviews later, and I didn't end up getting a role with her, but she passed me along to a couple other managers who were hiring. I was offered a role, and that started my corporate sales career. From there, I think that structure and that dynamic. I mean, remember, I was a political science major. I enjoyed kind of the ability to impact, to lead, to share my ideas, you know, have my voice be heard, to connect with people. It was all of the things that I really enjoyed in a corporate setting. So I thrived. I loved it. I thought it was great. And then unfortunately, you know, at 5 years in, I voluntarily raised my hand because I think kind of the rat race of things just got to me. I'm someone who does like consistency as much as I'm like willing to change and very adaptable. It was a lot. It was too much change. It was every 6 months. And I think that people who've been in the industry would say that it's probably settled down maybe a little bit, at least I hope. But, you know, I think it got me thinking that the career that my mom and dad had, where they were with their companies for, you know, 30 plus years, you know, 35 years, wasn't going to be the case for me. So I started to shift my focus and attention towards, you know, where did I feel like I could have the most impact? So I actually went back to fundraising for political campaigns. And I did that for a short while. I'd taken a severance package. I'd taken, you know, I was an early hand raiser, and I said, sure, let me take 6 months of paid leave basically and figure some things out. And then I realized this is really fun, but I should have done this before I had 2 kids at the time. And so I went back into corporate. And that's where I landed the role in automotive finance for a captive automotive manufacturer. And you know, I spent a really beautiful long career with them. And then in 2021 decided, I don't think this is for me anymore. I think my time is up. And that in and of itself was a moment that was a little shocking and jarring because when I got into corporate, I think I saw the path laid out. Remember, I'm the dreamer. I see to the very end. And what I saw was a very fulfilling, lengthy career until I'm, you know, what, 65, what a plus, you know, whatever, and then retire and then go enjoy the rest of my life. And God had other plans. He's like, nope, this is not where you're supposed to be. So I shifted gears in 2021.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. You know, I want to talk to you because I know that you have this program that you work with college students, and it's called Executive Vision Imagery. It's creating this vision for your future. So how do you develop this vision in, let's say, college students?
Mhm. Yeah, so I I love working with college students. I've been an advisor for my sorority in the past, membership education. I've done some just like one-off mentoring with some young women. I was an AD Pi at UK, so I
Oh,
have
boom,
to,
boom.
yeah, go AD Pi. Yep, first and finest. Just throwing that out there. We're the Lions, okay. But I have several stuffed animals named Alfie still that live in my home. I'm hoping to gift them to my daughter one day when she becomes a legacy. But I love this topic. I shared this actually on UK's campus last year with Alpha Delta Pi, with Pi Beta Phi, with Phi Mu, Alpha Phi. Like it's been a really awesome opportunity kind of start working more in that space, because I think cultivating the vision is truly asking yourself the question often, and daily if needed, but what is it that you want? What do you want? What do you want to accomplish in your life? What do you want to achieve? Like we start so often, it's easy to get pulled in this direction of, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. I mean, everyone loves someone who like shows up, right? And it just says, hey, tell me what you need and I'm here for you. However, when we say that so often and so repeatedly, what we forget is that we are a human as well. We are an individual who has needs, who has desires, who has wants, who has all these things that they want to accomplish. And so I think if we can start as young as elementary, middle, high school, and into college, we have a better idea of, why are we going to college? Why are we getting this degree? If I don't know, does that mean that I'm different or weird? No, it just means that I don't know. I'm going to go to college to figure that out. I'm going to go find out what it is. And so I'm creating this vision for my life as I go through the motions. I'm also setting myself up for success, because even though I might be going through a test period, I still have to set daily habits. I still have to set myself up for success. I need to follow some sort of process. It's kind of that whole thing, like the saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Mhm.
And so I think what happens is that's when you find people, I'm 42 years old. And I think I almost had that epiphany at 38 that was like, wait, but what am I doing? Like where I never really stopped. I kind of just allowed, that moment in the Kroger store to take me to, pharma. Then the moment of the severance to pull me in that direction. And so I share my story to say, while all of those were beautiful diversions and beautiful opportunities for me and my family, there were financial implications in some of these that were wonderful for us and set us up for success. But when I look back, was I truly living my best version, like my best vision, my best life? Or was I just simply allowing a lot of the things that I knew I was good at to kind of dictate my direction in life? And so I share with them that story to say we really truly need to understand our motivations, our factors. We don't know our core values, because if we don't have those, then we're not going to be anchored in anything. And so when we get out into this big world, or we're looking for jobs, we're just going to look for the shiniest company with maybe the best, benefits package or the highest pay, but it might not align with our core values and who we are as a person. And so I focus on that. I focus on what is our mission statement. And I remind them that your mission statement and your core values are going to change about 10 times throughout your life, because a family, while it was something that I wanted off in the future, it wasn't a core value of mine. Like building a strong family unit wasn't, when I was 22 years old. It was, I just want to get married and like navigate that life. I just want to get a job, a steady job, and navigate that. So there's understanding that we have to revisit these things. It's not just a one and done. Great, that was an awesome assignment. We completed it, we turned it in, and now we're good to go. We are a work in progress. We are constantly evolving. And by allowing myself to take those roads that were less traveled and to say, yeah, let's go be an entrepreneur, because that sounds like a lot of fun. That's really when a lot of the magic in my life happened, because it's really been the most uncomfortable thing I've ever entered into.
Mm.
And so what I would say to college students is, find your vision, whatever it is, and know that you also, put the plan and the process in place, but be open as well to creating a vision for your life that allows you to have many life moments and diversions and those beautiful opportunities where you might think that something wasn't for you. And when it's presented to you, like take the chance, take that opportunity.
I like that. It sounds like a college program in the making. I can see it already, revisiting your values for success
Yes.
after
Yes.
college. I really like
Yes.
that. I think you're absolutely right on target. Obviously, AD Pi, my fraternity, we all have values within that organization, but I think reflecting on those, looking at your personal core values, and really coming to an understanding and looking at that often, because you're right. I mean, our priorities change. I think, my priorities when I graduated from college was, okay, let me get, this really nice house, a lot of money, and a hot spouse. Like these are the things that we're thinking of as, college students, right? But then
Yeah.
things change, and then you're like, oh, well, there's actually something more meaningful in this life plan, right? Something that's going to change the world, that's going to make it a better place. So things change and evolve, so you really do have to revisit that often.
Yeah.
So, you're also really good at resume review as well. Are there certain things that the college students listening right now that they need to consider in terms of their resume right now?
So yes, I would say some of the things that I looked for, like I think, we had chatted about this earlier, I used to hire people. And so some of the things that I looked at was not necessarily like your amazing degree and where you went to school. It was more so like when you were in school, did you make the most of that situation? Because from a corporate standpoint, you're looking for people who can be good team members, but can also be leaders. Like you might be an individual contributor in title, but can you step up and lead people? Do people want to be around you and want you in their space? So there's a couple things I would say. Any groups and that you were involved in. If it was fraternity, absolutely list that involvement. And you might think that it's like mundane, but you never know the person who you're going to connect with. I've been in interviews before where they're like, oh my gosh, you were an AD Pi, like I was a Theta. And it's like, oh, so like, get it, sister. Like
Yeah,
it's
we're
because
in.
there's that connection. There is that connection.
Yep.
Um, the other thing too, leverage your network for even some of your references. You don't have to have these like incredible job references from previous lives, because let's face it, you've probably worked at the student union center or something, and great, that's an awesome reference, but leverage the connections that you have in your local community of the members that are still in your community. Get to know them, ask them for coffee, just get to know them, and so that they can get to know you. Tell them, ask them. I read this amazing book recently called Ask Like an Auctioneer, and one of the concepts and terms is getting out of your zofo, your zone of freaking out, and just doing the ask, and like basically just going for it and saying, this is what I need from you. I would like you to X. Introduce me to this person. I would like you to teach me this. I would like you to explain more of what it is that you do, because now you're starting to form a real relationship and connection, and you're not just networking, because network is such a cringy like a word. I would say the other thing is grammatical errors. Make sure that you're getting someone to spell check, to proofread over your resume. And I would say focus on results and over the things that you just like did on a task based standpoint.
Yeah, I like quantifying those results. I think that that's super important. Whatever your job is, if your job was treasurer, I reduced accounts payable by 20%. If I was recruitment chair, I increased the size of our chapter by 30%. Give me numbers, give me data that actually
Yes.
shows and demonstrates what you did in that position. Because for all I know, you might have been the worst recruitment chair in the history of the chapter, right? It doesn't mean anything. Like, give me some metrics that tells me what you did. Uh,
Exactly.
uh,
And I've often said too, I mean, sometimes I know, because I have spoken with many people who have hired me for their companies, and they're like, you way undersold yourself. I
mm,
have a tendency to do that when it comes to my program, my platform, and the work that I do with corporations. And then I too have to remind myself, like, I freaking work with the US House of Representatives. Like I've worked with Johnson and Johnson. I've worked with Disney. Like I need to be more confident. And so I think that's the other piece of it, is like, let that confidence, not cockiness or arrogance, but like let that confidence, there is, a humble confidence in owning your worth and the things that you've done, and truly being able to represent that. So if you have to practice through it, articulate, some responses. I am all for like perfect practice makes perfect. And we got to do that more often. Don't just walk into the interview like just going to shotgun this one and hope for the best. Maybe I'll make a connection with them. Like, do the work, practice, and ask people to mock interview you. Do not be nervous or embarrassed or humiliated, because you messing up in a mock interview is going to be 10 times more life-saving than you walking into a job that you really, really want and then feeling like you bombed it when you walked out.
hmm You're mentioning the mock interviews. I'm kind of curious because I think you're a pro at interviews. I mean, I could tell already. Clearly, you did that for Miss
Had a
America
lot of
as
work.
well.
Yes.
So, what should students be focusing on in the interview in order to really build that connection and get the job?
So people love stories. You have to tell a story. You
Mhm.
craft a story around and use. People always say, "Okay, the STAR method," because I do use that in my work as well with goal setting and everything. But think about it from this: like, what was the situation? What was it that you did? What were some of the things that you achieved? But then also add like that experiential piece of it. Like, what did it teach you? What did you learn from that to benefit? Because then how what you learn is how you translate that into what it's going to do for that corporation or that company.
Mhm.
And so I think learning to be able to craft your stories, your personal stories, and it could be something that you think is so mundane or so basic. It could be a date party that you ran and you had to put on the entire event, but you had to logistically cover every single base all by yourself. You got to learn how to like tell that story, tell it well, spin it, and then speak to the aspects of the resume or the job description that are it can be utilized within that story. So whether that is, yeah, and so my communication elevated because I had to learn how to be more assertive, like assertive, communicate more assertively my needs. I had to do follow up because these vendors weren't following up with me, and as much as I tried, I had to keep on them. Someone canceled last minute, so it taught me how to pivot and be adaptable and flexible at a moment's notice. I think there, et cetera, et cetera. And kind of taking and piecing that together. But I would say having 2 to 3 really nice stories is great
Yeah, I
to
agree
be able
with
to
you.
craft.
And just prepare those stories in advance. Like, you're going to have to tell a story. You know that somebody is going to say, "Hey, Maria, what's new?" Well, like, instead of just saying not much, have that story ready to go so that you have that success right away. And so just be prepared. I think that is the key. And I want to ask you one last question because I think this is something where you can really help us. Apathy is a real problem in today's fraternities and sororities. And I'm not saying that at Kentucky Alpha Delta Pi that there was any apathy. Maybe there was. So, how can we motivate our members?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, and here's the thing, it doesn't get any better in corporations either. So you leave college and it's like every corporation, you've got your bottom 10, 20% that are just kind of there. They're like phoning it in. They're showing up every day. They're getting the paycheck. So I feel like it's something that corporate culture wise leaders also deal with. And so if you can learn to manage that in your college setting, you're going to be 10 steps ahead of the leaders in most corporations.
Mhm.
Apathy in general, I think a lot of it comes with prioritization. Um, and and I say this because like ADPi is known, at least on UK's campus, for being one of the best, if not the best.
Mhm.
And it's something that they pride themselves on. So I
Mhm.
think in vetting their future members, it's really taking a look at where does this fall in your level of priorities? We can't be all things to all people. We can't do all things. So I think when we have those members who aren't as engaged, one, I think as a leader, we have to care about the people. I mean, if you follow Simon Sinek for half a minute, it's people first. So let's focus on our people and let's really engage with those that aren't feeling it or that maybe are separating and pulling back and aren't attending the events. Let's dig in. Let's understand why instead of ignoring it and just hoping the problem will go away. We actually have to double down. We got to dig in. We got to understand, what is it? Why don't you want to come to this event? Is it work? Maybe it could be that they're going through some rough times. Maybe it's something that financially they're having to work to pay for their membership and they feel like it's taking away from the experience. There are scholarship opportunities within sororities and fraternities that they could take advantage of, and they may not just know the resource. So I think in leadership, especially, this is where your role becomes so important because now you have to you're the leader of the people. You know, you have to bring them to water. You have to make them want to show up. But I also think it starts in understanding their reasons for joining. And it starts in that, you know, in that conversation at the very beginning, understanding what they're doing this for, understanding why they're even sitting in front of you that day. You know, was it so they got to move in a week before class started? Or is it because they were truly engaged in what Greek life can afford them? You know, the opportunities, the friendships, the connections, the future stuff, you know, beyond that. Because those were the things that when I was 18 and walking into sororities, that's what I was thinking about. Like this is going to be the home that I'm going to live in for the next, you know, 4 years. But this is going to be a lifetime of friendships and sisterhood and connections and all of the things that I'm really looking for. And so I would say that one, also don't get yourself too upset about the bottom, you know, the bottom percentage of people. They're always going to be those people. We have to live amongst them. Like it just is what it is. You're never going to be able to sell everyone on what it is that you're about. And I say, even in a sorority, you know, you're not going to be for everyone. You're not even going to be for all of your, you know, your sisters or your brothers. It just is what it is. So I think you do the best, but focus on the people, focus on really truly living out the values and the mission and of the sorority or fraternity, and just engage, get to know all of the members, and especially if you're in a leadership role. And then if you're not, and you're an individual contributor, but you see someone who's just not, you know, jiving or not maybe being included in certain things, or you feel them starting to disengage, reach out to them. Like just have a connection with them, because that can go a long way too. And sometimes that's what people are waiting for, is just that person to step up and say, hey, I want you to be here.
Yeah, that's stellar advice. Stop what you're doing, rewind, and listen to that answer again if you're having problems with apathy in your sorority or fraternity, because I guarantee you, Maria knows exactly what she's talking about, and she's 100% correct. She nailed it. All right, now we do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. That is my weakness. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So the next
Yeah.
time I'm in Florida, and let's say I'm in the Miami area, I sense that you know where to
Okay.
go for a really good meal. So where should I go to get a great meal in Florida these days?
So yes, I'm going to take you a little bit north to Fort Lauderdale, which is
Fort
the area that
Lauderdale's
we're
good. Yeah, yeah.
living. Yep. And one of my favorite restaurants right off the A1A, oceanfront view, is Dune. Dune by LT, I think it's like a designer or whatever that designed it. But the food, I can't even, I've been there countless times. I've never had a bad meal, never had a bad experience. Like from the food to the cocktails to the Sunday brunch, like it is all dynamite. So Dune is the spot that you gotta go.
All right, I'm going to go check it
Mhm.
out. I'm going to bring my wife with me because she also misses eating right by the beach. We used to do that all the time on the Long Island beaches in New York, and I think that's what she misses the most, is just be able to hear the waves, hear the ocean, hear the birds, like all of that while
Yeah.
she's eating. It's just, for her, is like takes it to a whole nother level. So I will definitely check out Dune. That's a great recommendation. All right,
Awesome.
so if our student listeners, if they want to book you to speak on their college campus, maybe they want coaching services around resume review, mock interviews, where should they go to connect with you?
Yes. Okay. So I have a website, and it's about to get a refresh in a couple weeks. I'm needing but it's still completely, you can contact me from that. So mmsconsultingfirm.com. Reach out to me on Instagram, so you can find me there as well. So my handle is at Maria Maldonado Smith. I am active on Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are probably the two most like social platforms that I'm the most active on. So yes, definitely. If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, it's the same thing, Maria Maldonado Smith. I also have a workbook called Creating a Vision Board, which is actually how participants in my corporate workshop end their day. They make a vision board. It's a visual representation of their goals. We talk all about the neuroscience of goal setting and the power of vision imagery, and it is incredibly powerful. So you could download my workbook off of Amazon under Creating Vision Board, or you could reach out to me. Email me, Maria at mmsconsultingfirm.com, and I would love to hear from you. So DM me, email me. I'm sure my phone number is out floating out there somewhere on my website. So text me. I'd love to speak on your campus. I'd love to do a workshop, all the things.
I love it. mmsconsultingfirm.com. Go and check that out. Check out the website and connect with her on LinkedIn. Connect with her on Instagram. It's Maria Maldonado Smith on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. What can I say? Maria, you are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of this great information with our listeners today.
Thank you.
Of course. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed Maria today, I want you to like it and I want you to share it on social media so that way other students get the opportunity to hear all the great stuff Maria has to talk about. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast.